Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the Lies They Tell podcast. You know how I start every single episode. I hope for all of my returning viewers, I hope you and yours are in good health. I hope you are protecting your mind, your heart, your body, your soul, and your spirit. To all of my first time viewers, this is the Lies They Tell podcast where we dispel all of the fallacies, all of the lies, where we provide an alternative to what you've been told and what you see. We are here to combat and fight all of the lies that big business, that the wealthy, all those with a narrative and positions of power, they, them, all of the lies that they tell us. So please be sure to subscribe. Make sure you hit that like. Be sure to share. And if you have anything you would like to say, any comments, questions, or concern, make sure to put them down in the comment section. I would love, and I always love hearing from you all. And also make sure to hit that bell notification so you're always up to date when we drop a new episode. Um, there's been a lot of things going on in the world in the past week or so. Uh, Mainly the Russian Ukraine crisis, right? And that's really what I want to get into. And before I do that, I have to let you know this is episode 12. Episode 12. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I literally cannot believe I'm already this far. And that up there is episode 11. Please be sure to check that out. That is actually something I did on Clubhouse with a few people, and it is about the single parent household within the Somali community. But that does not mean it is specific and it goes only for the Somali community. We are only talking about our perspective. We are Somali people. But I'm sure that it will help someone who is not. Anyway, let's get straight into it. Quick question. What does the Ukrainian military uniform look like? Without looking it up, take your time. Let me know. The reason why I asked that is, for as long as I've lived, I'm 31 years old. For as long as I've lived, through every war that I've lived through, since my coming of age, when I was able to understand and when I was able to rationalize what my eyes were perceiving, I have yet to see a war where two armies are actually fighting and it's apparent. We can see two armies fighting. We can see this army and we can see that army. We can see the soldiers' bodies dropping. Not that I advocate for that. Not that I want to see that. But this was, in my opinion, what war was supposed to be, right? Two military forces going up against each other. It has become a common theme, however, that the definition of war, in my lifetime at least, has been countries just carrying out airstrikes in other countries. And the people who are most affected, the most deaths, are never the military. It's never military personnel. It's never armed men and women. The majority of casualties is always citizens, civilians, women, children. This is from what I've seen. This is from what I've noticed, right? Now it begs the question, can we really call it a war? I have yet to see a single article that says one Russian military personnel was killed. Not that I want that, not that I'm advocating for that. I have yet to see one article that says a single Ukrainian military personnel has been killed. Not that I'm advocating for that, not that I'm looking forward to seeing that. Every article you read, 40, 50, 20, 30 people were killed in such and such airstrike at such and such time. by so and so. Now, then I started to question myself, because honestly speaking, for as long as I have lived and for as long as I can remember, things haven't always been what they seem. You know, a lot like some of you people out there, a lot of you out there, I have learned to believe nothing I hear, half of what I read, and a quarter of what I see. Majority of times, we get these news media outlets and social media platforms that push a narrative. And a lot of times, based on the country in which we live, that narrative is completely different. Let me tell you what I mean. In the time that Russia invaded Ukraine, and we'll get into that too, the definition of an invasion, right? In the time that Russia has invaded Ukraine, and in the time that Russia has actually carried out an airstrike in Ukraine, the United States of America carried out an airstrike in Somalia on the February 21st. In that time, Israel has carried an airstrike in Syria, in Damascus to be exact, on February 22nd. In that time, Saudi Arabia has carried out an airstrike in Yemen in the exact same time. And the truth is that we haven't heard about any of the other of those, like any other of those, any of those airstrikes. Excuse me. So I want to know why, right? To be honest with you, there's only so much answers that I can provide you with. I'm not a, you know, a philosopher, right? I'm not a educated person that's speaking from the perspective of military, military secrets and such. I'm a person with an opinion. I'm a person who is questioning what I see. So my question is, why haven't we heard about any of these other airstrikes? What is so different about Russia's involvement in Ukraine that none of these other airstrikes and none of these other lives matter that has been lost? Are we saying that Ukraine, the people of Ukraine lives matter? The people who have lost their lives in Ukraine, and my condolences out to everyone who has lost someone. But the people who have died in Ukraine, are we saying their lives were more valuable than the people who have died in Somalia, Yemen, Syria? Is that what we're saying? Because only one of them made national news or international news. Or are we saying because of the repercussions that Russia invading Ukraine has on the rest of us that we're going to pay attention? As if our country, the United States, carrying out an airstrike in another country does not affect us in any way, shape, or form. As if we're not creating more enemies by doing such things. Which one is it? You know, the truth of the matter is the only answer that I can come up with is that a lot of times we live in a world that tends to make us look left when they want, right? When it's beneficial, when it's feasible. They make us look left while they go do their dirt on the right. And when they're done with that and they got something they want to do over here to the left, they make us look right. This is called propaganda. This is misleading. And now my question is that if we live in a world, or we live in a country that never quite tells us the whole truth, that never quite tells us what they are doing, but they put everyone else's dirty laundry in front of us, how much better are we than Russia? How much better is the United States of America's government than Russia or North Korea? Because North Korea, they rule with an iron fist, right? With their people, at least. No questioning. The United States just doesn't tell you what they don't want you to know. And if anything were to make social media that they don't want you to know, it'd be out of there. What's the difference? How much longer do we have to live in a world where we can't think for our own? That we can't, as the people, tell our government and our elected officials, like, hey, we don't want any parts of that. This is a democracy, is it not? They're calling Russia an authoritarian government, and they're telling us that we live in a democratic democracy state, right? A democracy is where the people have a voice. An authoritarian is where the leader has the only voice. This is the picture that's painted. So then, when do we get the power as the people to say, let them do them over there? Like, have you ever wondered why does it matter to the average American that wakes up 6, 7, 8 in the morning, brews a nice cup of coffee, kisses their kids and their wife goodbye, goes out to work, works an 8, 10-hour shift, comes back home, hangs out with his family for a couple of hours, eats dinner and goes to sleep? Why does it matter to that person what's happening in Russia and Ukraine? Why? Who gives the right for any country, for any government, for any political party to be the police of the world? And now, even if that authority is entrusted to you by the people or by some people, who polices the police, right? So we can tell Russia they're wrong for their airstrikes or invasion of another country. Who tells the United States of America they're wrong for their airstrikes in Somalia? Who tells Israel they're wrong for their airstrikes in Yemen? I'm sorry, in Syria. Who tells Saudi Arabia they're wrong for their airstrikes in Yemen? Who tells them that? This is the coalition. This is the little tiny group of selected individuals or selected heads of states that make the decision about who shouldn't do what with their country and their region. So then who corrects us when we're wrong? No one. No one dares, right? So then how are we so much better than an authoritarian government? There's people dying. There's mothers and children dying. Babies are being orphaned. Men are losing their families, the thing they've worked their whole lives to maintain. Women are losing their children, the same children they've carried for 9 months, that they've went into labor for days to push out. What are we doing? When does it stop? Do we care if it stops? It's sad. It's really, really sad, and it's heartbreaking. to know that each and every one of us, all we can do is get on social media and discuss World War III, right? Those of us in the West, at least. All we can do is get on social media and discuss World War III. And in all actuality, the truth of the matter is that World War III has been happening for decades for some people in different parts of the world. The thing we fear the most, an attack on us, has been happening to people for decades, all around them. People have lost entire family trees. Entire generations have been lost. But we're so afraid of the possibility of the idea of that coming towards us. What makes us better? What makes your children, what makes your wife more important than another man's children and wife, apart from the fact that they are yours? And then what makes you any better than anyone else? I don't know if this video will ever make it past your ears. I don't know if this video will ever make it on the internet. I don't know if I'll be taken down. I don't know if I'll be flagged. But in the event that you watch this video, and in the event you have the opportunity to see this, just ask yourself, who am I? What do I stand for? Is this all life is supposed to be? Getting on social media, going to work every single day, coming home, eating, drinking, sleeping, waking back up, going to work, getting on social media, and repeat. Is that all life is supposed to be? Is life supposed to be all about us following our desires? Getting that house, getting that car, traveling. Is that really all life is supposed to amount to? Is that really all that matters? And if you should come up with the answer for, if you should say yes, life is supposed to be about that because that's what I make my life equate to and that's what I work hard for, that's great. But then now ask yourself, why is it that you are in the position to do that? Why is it that you were born into that position of privilege over other people in third world countries that have nothing? Who has created that circumstance? Why are you so special that you were born into a family that has the opportunities and the wealth and the luxuries that the Western worlds have to provide? And someone else was born, but with nothing but a fight. They were born with nothing but the will to fight, because that's all they'll be doing for their entire short lives. I don't have the answers to everything. I don't. And I think this was what this podcast was supposed to be about, right? I don't have the answers. I'm hoping, honestly, every single time I put up a video, every single time I make new content, every single time that I address you guys and I question you guys, I'm hoping someone somewhere is going to give me some answers because I can't figure this out. When does love, or when did love become only loving yourself and yours? When did love stop being universal? The love of all things and people God has created. When did it stop being that? And when did caring last for about a week or two before we move on to the next crisis? And when have we become so afraid to question what the hell is going on around us out of fear that we'd lose the crumbs that we have? Most people literally sell their souls just to save their car and house. Just because they were able to go out and buy that nice house, million, $2 million house, that nice car, 50, 60, 70, 80, $100,000 car. And most people, you give them that, they won't question anything. They won't dare speak out of fear of losing that. All the while, like 5% of the world's population owns 85, 90% of the world's wealth. Do you know what that is like? Do you understand what that means? That means you are getting less than crumbs. Someone who makes $200,000 a year is classified as middle class, probably lower middle class at that. While some people never live to see $200,000 their entire lives, 80, 90 years of living, never seen anything close to 200,000. So if you're middle class, what does it make that person? I digress. We are spoiled. We've lost the ability to feel. We've lost the ability to empathize. And worst of all, we have lost our ability to think like free people. Today, the world is going crazy over Russia and Ukraine. In about 2 weeks, we would have all moved on to something else, as history has shown. So, how important is this to us? How is how important is anything that happens to us when it's all a wave, when it's all a fad? I um I just wanted to let you know things are not always as they seem, and you damn sure can't believe anything you see on the news. Russia is doing what works for Russia. We should start doing what works for us and stop worrying about the whole world. Murder rates are climbing. Unemployment is climbing once again. Gas prices are climbing. And we're worried about what's going on in Russia and Ukraine. I think I've gotten off what I wanted to say. And I'm going to end it here with you guys, for you guys. Um, Make sure to go check out that episode about the single parent household. It is what matters to us. It is what's important today, right here, right now. Not Ukraine, not Russia. That helps families in our community. That helps the nucleus of the community, which is the mother, the father, and the child, right? The core, because the community is made up of different families. And if our community is messed up, that means that our families are messed up. And if you fix the family, the community gets better. And if the community gets better, then society at large gets better. And if society at large gets better, the whole world gets better. That's how you fix things. You don't break up homes. You don't incentivize single parent homes by funding them more and then say you care about the world by going to get involved with other people's politics, other countries' politics. It's all a distraction. It's all a distraction. Keep your eyes open. Make yourself able to tell when Satan is speaking. Know who Satan is. Know who Allah is. Because if you know those two, then you will know every single time one of them speaks, you will know who is who. But first, you have to open up your eyes and your ears, and you have to open your heart up. This has been another episode of the Lies They Tell podcast. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And once again, protect yourself out there. Jum'ah Mubarak.